Hi there, Kingfisher. It's Thursday today. We're going to be hearing at some point later today news from the government in terms of lockdown, possible exit strategy. It is unlikely to be the news that I imagine many of us would be hoping for. This is going to be going on for a longer period of time than perhaps we initially imagined. It may not be the news that we hope for, and with that in mind, I want to share something by means of an encouragement. This is a passage that Phil Warner shared with me yesterday that was an encouragement to him. It's been an encouragement to me, and I pray that it will also be an encouragement to you. This is Matthew chapter 16, verse 5 through to 12. When they went across the lake, the disciples forgot to take bread. "Be careful," Jesus said to them. "Be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees." They discussed this among themselves and said, "It is because we didn't bring any bread." Aware of their discussion, Jesus asked, "You have little faith. Why are you talking among yourselves about having no bread? Do you still not understand? Don't you remember the 5 loaves for the 5,000, and how many basketfuls you gathered? Or the 7 loaves for the 4,000, and how many basketfuls you gathered? How is it you don't understand that I was not talking to you about bread? But be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees." Then they understood that he was not telling them to guard against the yeast used in bread, but against the teaching of the Pharisees and Sadducees. See, here the disciples are concerned about what it is that they have in their hands, or rather what they lack in their hands. But Jesus is concerned with what is going on within their hearts. Now, we live in a culture that can be so concerned with what it is that we have in our hands, our security, and especially at this point in time, where the normal security, the way that we would expect the world to work, has changed. And yet Jesus calls us not to worry about what we have in our hands or the lack of what we have, but to focus in on what is in our hearts. Now, this is a message that has been important for me to be reminded of this week, especially at this point where we're fast approaching the weekend. A sermon isn't easy in coming, and it can be easy then for me to focus on what I lack in my hands and to spend my time worrying and focusing in on that. And Jesus is calling me to focus in on my heart. Several months ago, we invested in a property that we owned. And earlier this week, I was thinking about, was that a good investment? Not knowing what the economy is going to be like in the coming months and the coming years. But again, this reminder from here of don't worry about what it is that you have in your hand. Like, Jesus is able to meet our needs as they arise, whatever they are, and he can meet them abundantly. We haven't got to focus in on securing stuff for ourselves. Rather, he wants us to focus in on what is going on in here. Seek first God's kingdom, his righteousness. And all these other things, they'll be given to you as you need them. So don't worry about what you're going to eat or what you're going to drink or what you're going to wear. Jesus is able to meet our needs. Don't focus in on what we hold in our hands, but what's going on in here. And how God is using this time to change and to transform us, to conform us to the image of his Son, Jesus Christ. And I let that be our focus in the coming weeks, months, years, for as long as we live. Don't worry about what is in our hand. Focus in on what is in our heart. So with that in mind, let's close with some words of prayer from Psalm 139. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Amen.